The alien child was eating dirt. Not metaphorically, actual dirt, hands trembling, purple skin caked in ash, digging through trash for something that wasn't poison. When the human soldier saw her, he froze mid-step. She looked up, eyes glowing faintly in the dusk, and whispered in broken English, "Please, don't take my sister's food." That's when he realized, on this dying world, hunger wasn't the enemy. Indifference was. The soldier's name was Rhett Hale, though no one had used it in years. Out here on Kailor 9, people didn't ask for names, only credits, fuel, or silence. He preferred silence. It didn't bleed, but that day, silence ended with a sound he hadn't heard since the war, a child crying. She was small, too small, skin the color of faded lilac, hair silver like frost in polluted air. The little alien trembled beside a rusted bin, clutching something in her hands. Half a rotten potato peel, damp with oil. She licked it once, then gagged. Still, she tried again. Hunger makes even misery taste like hope. Rhett lowered his weapon. "Hey," he said softly. His voice sounded strange to him. Gentle wasn't something he'd practiced. "That's not food." Before the girl could answer, something slammed into his ribs. He went down hard, breath punched out of him. A blur of violet and silver pinned him to the dirt, hands around his throat. "Don't touch her." The attacker was older, a woman this time. Her strength came from fear, not muscle, but she fought like she'd been doing it forever. He managed to twist her grip without hurting her, forcing her arms aside. "I'm not your enemy," he said between breaths. She was starving. The woman froze, eyes flicking toward the child. The girl had stopped crying, staring at them both like she couldn't decide who scared her more. Slowly, the woman, Sarah as he'd learned later, let go. "We don't need your pity, human." "Good," Rhett said. "I'm fresh out of it." He offered his canteen instead. The child hesitated, then drank like she was afraid it would vanish. Sarah watched, jaw tight, pride cracking under exhaustion. When the girl whispered, "It doesn't hurt to drink," Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She refused to let fall. Rhett looked at the two of them, an ex-soldier and two refugees, stranded beneath a bruised red sky. He didn't know what war they'd lost, but he knew the look. He'd worn it once. "Come on," he said finally. "You'll both die out here," Sarah glared. "Why help us?" Rhett glanced at the child's shaking hands. "Because someone should have helped me once, and didn't." And just like that, his quiet exile ended with a single impossible choice: feed the enemy, or become human again. Rhett's bunker wasn't much to look at, just metal walls, humming filters, and rows of fragile green life clinging to recycled air. But to Sarah and the child, it was paradise. The warmth alone made Lyra smile, her small purple fingers reaching toward the glow of the grow lamps as if she'd forgotten what comfort felt like. Sarah stood behind her, too proud to sit, too tired to stand straight. "You grow human food," she said, studying the vines that curled upward in neat spirals. "Yeah," Rhett said, pulling a tomato from its stem. "Keeps me from losing my mind." Or what's left of it. Lyra bit into the tomato before Sarah could stop her. She chewed once, twice, then her face twisted. "It burns," she coughed. Sarah grabbed her, panicked. "Human food makes us sick," she hissed, glaring at Rhett as if he'd poisoned them. He raised his hands. "Easy. I didn't know." The tension sat heavy for a while, broken only by the hum of air filters and the child's quiet breathing. Rhett moved carefully, like someone trying not to spook a wounded animal. "What can she eat?" he asked finally. Sarah hesitated. "Nulra spores," she said, the words bitter as dust. "A fungus that grows on our homeworld. The Combine outlawed it after they said it caused contamination. Now it costs more than life." Rhett crouched by one of his planters. "A fungus, huh?" "You can't grow it," Sarah said sharply. "It only grows on Valari organic matter." She didn't need to explain. He understood. The dead fed the living. The cruelty of it hit like shrapnel. Lyra yawned, curling up on the floor, already half asleep. Sarah brushed a strand of silver hair from her face, her voice lowering. "I give her most of my share. I'll do anything to keep her alive. Anything." Rhett leaned against the wall, staring at his reflection in a steel panel. Once he'd believed in orders and missions. Now he just saw a man tired of watching things die. He looked at Sarah. Maybe you don't need the dead. Maybe you just need someone stubborn enough to try. For the first time, her gaze softened, wariness giving way to the faintest spark of something dangerous. Hope. For a few days, life inside the bunker almost felt normal. Rhett tinkered with soil samples while Sarah helped recalibrate his nutrient tanks. Lyra drew shapes in the dust and named each tomato plant like a pet, but peace on Kalor 9 never lasted. The warning came one morning when Sarah didn't return from her shift at the reactor fields. Lyra waited by the door until night, humming softly to hide the sound of her empty stomach. When Rhett finally found her mother's work tag discarded in the dust, the pit in his gut told him everything. He found Sarah at the edge of the barter district, standing before a man in a black corporate coat. She looked smaller under the neon lights, her silver hair pulled tight, her hands shaking as she signed something on a digital slate. "Don't," Rhett said, voice low. "Whatever that is, stop." The man turned, a human Combine overseer with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Property transfer. Perfectly legal. She sells her service, I ensure her sister's protection." "Fair trade." Sarah didn't meet Rhett's gaze. "It's done. Walk away." Rhett stepped forward. "You're selling yourself into slavery." Her laugh was hollow. "You think I don't know that? I tried everything else. Work favors begging. None of it feeds her. This will." He wanted to grab her shoulders, to shake sense into her, but the look in her eyes stopped him cold. It wasn't weakness. It was a mother's ferocity in a world that gave her no choices. Sarah's voice cut through the market noise. "Sarah!" The little girl stood there barefoot, holding a wilted tomato she'd saved for her sister. "You forgot dinner," Sarah's resolve cracked. She knelt, hugging her tight. "I didn't forget, little one. I'm making sure you never go hungry again." Rhett's throat closed. He turned to the overseer. "You let her walk, or I'll bury you in this dirt you sell." The man smirked. "Try it, soldier." Rhett didn't, not yet. He couldn't win that way, not in daylight, not against the system. As the shuttle carried Sarah away, dust swirling around its engines, Lyra buried her face in Rhett's coat and whispered, "You said you could grow anything. Can you grow her back?" Rhett looked toward the horizon, where the sun bled into smoke. "Maybe," he said. "But first I have to break the world that took her." Rhett didn't sleep for 3 nights. He spent them buried in blueprints and bioscans, chasing an idea that shouldn't have been possible. The lab notes from the old wars still haunted his drive, fragments of experiments where humans tried to weaponize life. He'd helped destroy planets with that data. Now he'd use it to rebuild one. On the 4th night, Lyra found him slumped over his workbench, eyes red, hands trembling. "You're sick," she said softly. "You don't even eat." He managed a weak smile. "I'm busy saving the world, kid," she frowned. "Save my sister first." That broke him a little. He exhaled, then showed her what he'd made. A glass cylinder filled with glowing dust, pale violet and alive. "This is Nolra," he said, "or close enough. It doesn't need the dead anymore." Her small eyes widened. "You made food out of light?" "Out of regret," he murmured. 2 days later, they broke into the Combine research sector, Rhett armed with nothing but old access codes and too much conviction. The corridors reeked of antiseptic and fear. Security drones floated past like silent ghosts. Lyra slipped through vents while Rhett hacked the central control. When the alarms blared, it was already too late. The vault door opened, and there she was, Sarah, bruised, weak, and half-conscious inside a containment pod. They'd turned her into a biological host, harvesting her enzymes for profit. "Stay with me," Rhett whispered, smashing the locks. She fell into his arms, barely breathing. Behind him, the lab director shouted, "You can't win, soldier! We own the air you breathe!" Rhett smiled, blood dripping down his cheek. "Then I'll change the air." He released the containment valve. The glowing spores rushed outward, caught in the vents, swept into the storm raging above Kalor 9. The sky turned violet, clouds shimmering as life spread faster than the Combine could contain. Sarah coughed, gasping, her pulse faint but steady. "What did you do?" He looked at her, eyes tired but fierce. "I planted a future, Outside, the red desert began to bloom, and for the first time since the war, Rhett Hale wasn't destroying a world, he was saving one. Morning came soft and strange. The storm had passed, leaving a violet shimmer across the desert. Where ash once lay, tiny glowing shoots had pushed through the soil, fragile, luminous, alive. Rhett stood outside the bunker, his coat coated in dust and spores. Lyra clung to his leg, blinking at the horizon, as if afraid it might vanish. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Sarah stirred on the cot behind them, voice weak but certain. "It's Nulra." Rhett turned, and for the first time in weeks she was smiling. The color had returned to her cheeks, faint but real. "You did it," she said. He shook his head. "We did." By noon, word had spread across Kalor 9. Families crawled out of shelters and ruined buildings, hands trembling as they touched the glowing fungus growing wild in the dust. Hunger, once a shadow that followed every step, began to fade. The Combine tried to fight back, but it was too late. The spores had seeded themselves into every crevice, every forgotten corner of the planet. You couldn't outlaw life once it learned to breathe. Weeks later, the first markets reopened, not to sell food, but to share it. Valarian humans traded seeds, laughter, and stories. The walls between them began to crumble, one harvest at a time. Sarah helped rebuild the farms, teaching others how to grow without fear. Lyra ran barefoot through the rows, humming songs she claimed made the plants dance. Rhett just watched them, the ache in his chest finally quiet. One night, under a sky alive with unfamiliar stars, Sarah found him by the greenhouse door. "You could leave," she said softly. "Go back to your people. You don't owe us anything." He smiled, tired but content. "Maybe not. But I owe myself something, peace." She reached for his hand. "Then stay. Grow with us." He did. Years later, people would say Kalor 9 became the first world to feed itself free. They'd tell stories of a soldier who planted hope and a family that taught two species how to share it. And when the wind blew just right, the violet fields would whisper like old ghosts redeemed, softly singing of hunger that once was and the love that made it end.